Hello and welcome to Mondo Street Presents The DNA of Austin Powers. Now, before we start, okay, I'm going to put a big warning out to our dear listener that the next 30, 40, 50, 60, however long we stretch this out for, is going to be littered by some incredibly bad impressions. And we can't help ourselves, and we're not sorry. So let's start off with hello, Dan.
Hello, Philip.
Oh dear, I win. I've got a bet of myself that you couldn't last 30 seconds.
That's what she said.
Scotty, no. All right, so Austin Powers started with the International Man of Mystery, Mike Myers, as we all know and love. But where did Austin Powers come from? So, what do you think off the top of your head is the first? Well, not literally off the top of your head, but you know, where do you think the DNA of Austin Powers starts?
I would say with 60s, 70s comedy, which Mike Myers has openly said in many interviews
Yeah,
was the basis for it because of the comedy that he learned from his father
yeah,
from being brought up, the Liverpudlian background, and then obviously growing up in Canada, littered with comedy from England. And that's evident throughout. But I think the biggest, well, it's a double-edged sword. This one, it's the biggest influence is obviously James Bond,
yeah.
but I would say it's the Peter Sellers and the
David
well,
Niven.
not Peter Sellers, but David Niven. Thank you for Casino
Yeah,
Royale.
yeah. It's James Bond, but
But
not
I bet
as most people know him, because most people think of James Bond as trying to stick relatively closely to Ian Fleming's source material, whereas Casino Royale, not the Daniel Craig flavor. I almost called him Craig David then. I do that all the time. You know, what did you do on Monday?
selector, bow
Du-du-du-du.
selector.
Yeah. Oh, 7. Yeah, it's not the Daniel Craig Casino Royale. And his Casino Royale is not a remake of the original Casino Royale, which was more of a spoof spy, starring David Niven as Bond.
And Woody Allen. I mean, if you got
Oh,
Woody
the
Allen in
cast
it,
is
it's
amazing.
not going to be serious.
Oh, the cast is amazing, and I was kind of surprised the first time I saw it. I was kind of surprised it got made. That the Fleming estate
Same.
didn't object more. I think if somebody tried to do it nowadays, I think there'd be massive objections, and I think there'd be court cases and litigation up the yin yang. I think back when that was made, which was what, mid to late 60s.
Yeah.
I think people are a lot more relaxed about, copyright and character infringement. But yeah, it's bizarre what they got away with.
But it's also a film that very nearly didn't get made because
Mm,
it was not a happy production,
yeah.
which is why I think when you watch it, it's not the greatest film. It doesn't have a great flow to it. It seems very cut up. There's not
Oh,
something
yeah,
to it. I can't
yeah,
quite put my finger on
yeah.
it, but that sort of stuff also you can tell through the Austin Powers franchise is something that falls
Yeah.
in as well, which I
I
think works.
Yeah, I think you can actually you can put your finger on why it feels disjointed as a film, because it had 3 directors.
Yes, that's why. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got these clashing styles, and one of them is John Huston, who wasn't exactly renowned for comedy, as far as I can
Mm.
remember, trying to make some kind of light-hearted jape. Um, yeah, so I'd lay that, straight at the floor of having, a myriad of writers, but 3 directors, and I think.
Mm.
Well, what's the last film that comes to mind where there's been more than one director? It'd be the Russo brothers or I'm not quite sure how you say that nowadays, but is it the Wachowski sisters that did The Matrix?
Mm. The Wachowski family. Wachowski. That's the South Park.
Is that South Park? Is it? What's the surname then?
we yeah, we'll go with what you said.
Yeah, the directors that made The Matrix.
Yeah.
You don't tend to find many films that are directed by more than one person that are cohesive. And although this had a wonderful cast, absolutely superb cast, lots and lots, Orson Welles as Le Chiffre. You can just imagine that guy being half tanked with a big cigar, which is exactly what he did all the way through it, and Sellers, you know, Sellers effectively being Inspector Clouseau, but
Yeah.
with license to ill or kill or
Yeah.
whatever. So it was a massive influence on Austin Powers, I think. Yeah, I think it'd be hard to argue with that.
I read today an interview with Daniel Craig, which I thought was very funny. One of the reasons he put that they went hard with Casino Royale and they took a complete deviation from other Bonds and they went sort of hardline serious was that Austin Powers killed the Bond franchise at that point from being tongue-in-cheek. He's openly said in an interview, we had to go that way because Austin Powers killed Bond. I think I can see that.
Yeah, because if you look back to the mid-70s to mid-80s when Roger Moore was Bond, that was almost Austin Powers towards the end, wasn't it? When he got to Moonraker.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh god, the puns were thick and fast.
Oh yeah.
It's just It
was it wasn't the finest era for Bond from a let's take it seriously point of view. But you can see I think Casino Royale with its light-hearted look at Bond was a massive influence. But I think Roger Moore was the Bond which is aped the most by Austin Powers.
Yeah, I think the whole Bond franchise, because if you look at certain key parts and how it references Bonds, I mean, Dr. Evil with his sharks with freaking lasers is straight out of, is it Live and Let Die? I think
it's Blofeld, isn't it? He's which was later played by Christoph Waltz.
Yes, and the whole secret underground lair. I mean, that's just straight out of every Bond villain.
It's from Dr. No to Tomorrow Never Dies, isn't it? It's every Bond villain has to have that lair, that stupidity layer, and every single James Bond villain has to give away the plot. Moments before making a really crap attempt at killing him, and that again is aped all the way through Austin Powers to the point where Dr. Evil's son Scott says, "Well, I've got a gun, I'll just go and shoot him, and then it'll be done." And he's like, "No,
Scotty,
no." I think that one of the things, when you look at Austin Powers, you've got the groovy, yeah, baby clothes, the ruff and that. But I think that the face, there's a lot of Michael Caine in there. And he's wearing the Harry Palmer glasses. So I think our next part of the DNA, and it's hard not to mention DNA but to Austin Powers and not kind of relate it to his mojo that gets stolen by Fat Bastard, because that is in his essence, his DNA, isn't it? But I think whilst there might be some more obvious ones that people think about, I think Harry Palmer is the next one after Bond.
Oh, totally. It's that sort of 60s. The thing about Harry Palmer was he's sort of an anti-spy. He's not your slick, suave Bond. He's your take a bird back, later at night, cook us some bacon and eggs in the morning. You know what I mean?
It didn't take you long to fit Michael Caine in, did it?
That's what she said.
Oh my God. Oh. But yeah, I think that the look of Harry Palmer is in the eyes. I think that, and that obviously spawned onto actually being fortunate enough to get Michael Caine to play his dad in Goldmember.
Shatter Turtle,
which is just insanely good casting. because it is a nod to the to the tradition and their referencing.
Totally, but that scene where they are that they do the Cockney rhyming thing with the shat on a turtle,
Yeah.
that is just perfect
Yeah.
cinema for me because they bounce off each other so well, and you can tell that they're thoroughly enjoying that sort of back and forth. And I just think, well played to Michael Caine for saying yes to do it. We know he likes to say yes to a film because of the paycheck, but
Well,
he went on board with this and he knew the assignment, shall we say?
yeah, and it doesn't take much to actually, it doesn't take much to remind him about Jaws 4. You are going to take a paycheck then, mate. That's what you're going to do. One of the next biggest references is James Coburn as Flint, and he actually he says it in the second film.
He does, yeah.
I'll let you do the impression because you do it so much better than I do.
I can't remember how he did this. It's
like, do you like Flint? It's my favourite movie.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're bleeding obvious there.
Yeah, and in like Flint, our man Flint, and in like Flint was obviously it was a reflection of the time from Man from U.N.C.L.E., Man in the Suitcase. There were a lot of spy TV shows on at that time, and I think that was a reaction to the Cold War and the exciting, nerve-wracking times that we're in. But I think Flint is definitely the first bit where you see because in Casino Royale, David Niven plays it more like a funny gentleman spy, but he's not a shag machine. Whereas Flint is most definitely a shag machine, and I think where you get that that complete, just throb all the time from him. He calls it his mojo, but he's just all the time, and I think that comes from Flint.
I'd agree with you, but I think Austin tries to lean more towards the Niven character because he does try so hard to be suave, like allow myself to introduce myself. It's just he's trying to be cool and suave in a really cool situation, but he just cannot do it, which is why I think he leans more to the Niven side. Then like Flint with some of the staged
the fighting,
the fighting and everything. That's very
the
like
judo
Flint,
chop. That is Flint. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But the trying to be suave, I think he wants to be David Niven, but he's the budget David Niven.
He's the oldie David Niven.
He's David Niven, but not enough.
Yeah, the Diet Coke of David Niven.
Not Niven enough.
That could go on for hours, like it did in the film. One thing that I did a bit of research, and I was looking at. I've heard Mike Myers talk about his dad, and I've heard him talk about the humor, the Liverpudlian humor, the humor that he was raised with in his early work. He was on kids' TV doing all kinds of stuff, but it was always something that generated a laugh. And I wanted to do a bit deeper digging because there must have been something that sparked Austin Powers in him, and there was, and I never knew this. Okay, and I'll see whether you knew this. The actual genesis of Austin Powers, the moment when he realized what Austin Powers could be, should be, and would be, he was listening to The Look of Love by Burt Bacharach.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he thought to himself, where have all the swingers gone? Hence, Burt Bacharach appears in all of the films, sometimes with Elvis Costello, but he's in every film. And I think that is a really great homage to a man who definitely wrote the soundtrack for that swinging period.
He wrote Alfie, didn't he? Didn't he write the theme tune to What's It All About, Alfie?
Which Cilla Black sang.
Cilla Black sang, yeah.
Yeah, dear God.
But I just love that moment where you are actually fourth wall broken. You're
Yeah.
detached from the film into a lovely piece, which is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burt Bacharach.
Mr.
And,
M's
and he
Costello.
just and he's just playing along on the top of the bus, double-decker bus going through Vegas.
Yeah, he wrote, excuse me, he wrote Alfie with Hal David.
That's
And
it. Hal David,
and it was,
yeah, they were
and it was produced by
Quincy Jones.
more famous than Quincy Jones.
Oh, I don't know then. At that time,
Oh, massively more famous than Quincy Jones. If you could go back in a time machine and you're Beatle, yeah, go back to the 60s, baby. Yeah, shagadelic. Which record producer would you choose?
oh God, it wasn't George Martin, was it?
It was.
Jesus, God, didn't know that.
And
Every
that's
day's a school day.
yeah, and don't forget, this is 74. Oh, 66. Sorry, I'm looking at 74 for something else. So this is right on the cusp of the Beatles going boomski. Yeah. And George Martin produced a song for a film which cost a hell of a lot of money. But is it a good film? I don't know. I've never seen it. I can't comment.
I have seen it. It's not a nice subject matter. It's quite harsh. Even for now, I'd say it's not a very nice subject. I didn't particularly enjoy it.
There's another old show as well, which I think Powers may have pulled from, which was called Jason King, which is about this Playboy novelist who got into scrapes and had judo chop fighting and only lived a season, 71 to 72. But it is all that, big collars, flowery shirts, big tashes, yeah, baby, and all that. So I think that mostly added to it. So I think we'll add Jason King to the list. What do you think then has been the lasting impact of Powers?
Oh gosh, I think that's a really difficult one to answer. I think the lasting impact of Austin Powers has been Doctor Evil, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know who was originally cast to play Doctor Evil but couldn't do it due to a scheduling conflict?
No.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, I'm so glad it didn't happen.
Who was booked to play Liar Liar.
Oh, I'm so glad that didn't happen. Nothing against Jim Carrey at all. But the whole thing of it being Mike Myers in those two roles, like Peter Sellers,
The duality of it.
that duality of it, which ultimately pays off at the end of the trilogy. But it's perfect. No, there's nobody else that could play Dr. Evil.
No, I agree. Mike Myers didn't want to play multiple characters, but it just for that duality, it works so well, so well.
Yeah, I personally, I think if I've watched all three films this week, and apart from, I think the only changes I'd make is taking Beyonce out of Goldmember, because I think she's bloody awful. She is the Gwyneth Paltrow from Seven to Goldmember. She is.
Yeah, she ruined it for me. I understand the different vibe, the sort of change to sort of 70s and then the blaxploitation type referencing and what have you, but I just don't think she was a good actress in it.
I don't even think Goldmember was trying for anything that intellectual. I think what Goldmember did, and Goldmember is still a very, very, very funny film, but the issues I have with Goldmember is the sheer number and weight of the cameos. By the time they got to Goldmember, it was generating a lot of money as a franchise, and it was also generating a lot of buzz and interest, and people wanted to circulate around it. Now, at the start of the film, I think you'd have to be comatose not to laugh at Danny DeVito as Mini-Me.
It's the best bit. Hey, I'm Mini-Me.
It is genius. And even Kevin Spacey as Dr. Evil. Okay. I know he's recently gone through a court case where they asked him if he was Doctor Evil, but yeah, I think you'd be dead for the neck down. It got a bit too much for me then when you go to Steven Spielberg, and then
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg then starts somersaulting away, and
Yeah.
that got a bit too much for me. I think if it stayed just at those 4 cameos at the start, I thought it would have been perfect, because there's more cameos as you go through. It's like Christian Slater popping up as a security guard. And that was at the peak of Christian Slater's fame. He well, not maybe the peak, but he was still, dare I say, relevant at that point. He was still enough to, Broken Arrow was somewhere there or thereabouts with John Travolta. So that there was still an element where people would go and see a Christian Slater film. And there's lots of little cameos that pop up. And I think they detracted from what was some very, very fine comedy in that film.
I think it detracted from Goldmember himself. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Because he, as a villain, I mean, highly quotable. I like gold.
Yeah.
She's crunchy.
Yeah, but it's gold leaf thin, though, isn't it? The character.
It's not great.
It's not great.
To me, The Spy Who Shagged Me is the best of the trilogy. I would die on that film. I love it to bits. I think it's so well done.
Yeah.
I think that Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery is a great film. For what was it, a 16 million budget, it ranked 68 million or something around that?
No. Its numbers are better than that. You keep talking and I'll get the numbers.
But I think International Man of Mystery, I remember when that came out and I went to Blockbuster Video, rented it. I went back to Blockbuster Video and I bought it.
Yeah.
Because I just adored that film and I watched it on loop. I had the soundtrack on loop. It's a great film, but there are points where I feel it's stuttered. The sort of the flow of it wasn't there in parts. It just felt it slowed down or bits weren't quite right. But with The Spy Who Shagged Me, that was all ironed out, and I just felt it was there. And need to point out a little cameo for a certain infamous comedian now.
Oh dear.
Who was in that? Oh no, infamous for good reasons.
Oh right, okay. Infamous is normally a negative term.
No, not anymore.
Okay.
But I have fallen down and I have broken my leg. I bet a young unknown Will Ferrell as Mustafa.
Yeah. Mustafa. Not Mustafa. Mustafa.
I think I have broken my leg. And it smells like almonds.
Yeah, I can see the bone. You were right about
I will try standing on it. Crack.
Yeah, you were right about the receipt. I do apologize. It's where they got to The Spy Who Shagged Me and it went ballistic. It was a 33 budget, gross 314. So that's a massive leap. I think the thing with International Man of Mystery is that there was almost like at times there was almost like an SNL feel about it, and some of
with International Man with the first one. Yeah, I would agree with that, but that's his background, so it's gonna.
So and some of the sketches weren't quite knitted together properly. But I think Jay Roach, for such a small budget, did a phenomenal job with it.
Completely,
because they did the right thing. They didn't go heavy on big flashy, action trope events. They put the money into the script, and that was what was needed to set up the franchise. And I think you're right. I think The Spy Who Shagged Me is the best of the three. It's the most accomplished, but I still have a massive soft spot for the first one because it introduced that humor. But being a little bit critical about The Spy Who Shagged Me, it doesn't half repeat a lot of the jokes in the first one, but I think a bit more polished.
A bit more polished, but I also think it may have done that because the International Man of Mystery was a bit of a sleeper hit. It did better on VHS than it did in the cinema.
VHS, how old are you?
Well, yeah, shows the time. But it was. I watched it on VHS.
No,
at
it
the
was
time. I had it
VHS.
on.
It was
Yeah.
Spy Who Shagged Me was out in what? June 99.
Hmm.
Oh, there may have been one or two DVD players available on the UK market at that time.
I think I bought mine from Richer Sounds, or maybe as an import. My player, but I had it on. I had Spy Who Shagged Me on DVD. I know that for sure.
Yeah, most probably the year after in 2000.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
probably.
yeah, because DVDs at that point, I think they started to take off probably about 98, something like that. Because I had a Laserdisc player for years.
I think I bought it off Play.com. That shows at my
Oh my
age.
God, that website, thank God it's gone. Oh my God. The amount of money that went through that website on Region 1 DVDs because we couldn't
Yep.
get good stuff over here.
Yep.
Oh my
Yep. Oh
God.
my goodness.
Those are the
We we,
days.
we digress. But yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of SNL, this was also a film that broke a relationship.
Okay.
Dana Carvey,
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
he of Garth fame,
Swing.
was particularly upset because he claimed that Dr. Evil's voice was based on his impression of SNL
Lorne
head
Michaels.
honcho Lorne Michaels.
All right.
And when you hear Dana Carvey doing his impression of Lorne Michaels, it's a little bit close.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's like
But
saying,
that's why they
yeah,
fell out.
yeah. That's a pity that why didn't just Mike Myers throw him a bone, throw me a freaking bone, just to placate him a little bit,
Hmm.
just give him
Which
a
is why when they came back a few years ago, to do that SNL so many years of, and they brought back Wayne and Garth for a
yeah,
Wayne's World special,
yeah,
obviously at their current age.
mhm,
It was a big thing because they had not been close for a good
right,
chunk of time. So it was like the sort of the reunion of them.
yeah. It's a pity that,
It is a pity.
yeah. But going back to Austin Powers, it was I don't know. I love the fact that apart from the too many cameos and Gold Member, I love the way that they got Rob Lowe to come in and do a pitch perfect Robert Wagner. It was insane when I first saw it. I went, huh? Have they de-aged Robert Wagner somehow?
Daddy.
Yeah, gonna shed a tear. Gonna boo? Gonna shed a tear?
If you got an issue, have a tissue.
It was. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. So the lasting legacy of Austin Powers. Then there's a scene in International Man of Mystery where he's catching up on history. Yeah, where he's trying to and he's doing the Air Jordans and it blows up and he's puts the DVD on the record player and all that, which was beautifully aped in Captain America. Do you remember the scene?
Oh God, I didn't even that didn't even click.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there must be lots of films out there where somebody has
Yeah.
caught up with history, although I can't think of too many. But that just stands out, and I don't know whether the Russo brothers did it on purpose or whether they took it from there. But I can just see, I can draw a straight line from Austin Powers to Captain America now. So is Austin Powers in the multiverse?
I love that.
You know,
Oh,
I think he's
brilliant.
in the
In flies
multiverse.
Iron Man.
Right.
In flies Iron Man.
I think he's in the multiverse, and I think that we're in for a surprise when we get to Infinity. Not Infinity Wars. What's the last one called?
Oh God, I don't
Oh,
remember. They're all a blur.
whatever film 87.
Endgame.
No, the new Infinity
Oh,
Wars.
the new.
About 18 films away from now. Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be playing Doctor Doom. He's going to be playing Doctor Evil. And it's not going to be Captain Marvel or Captain America or anybody else saving the day. It's going to be Austin Powers because he's part of the multiverse.
Look, there's a freaking man who's an ant.
Yeah. You're not very big, are you?
Oh, Phil's got a big hammer.
Yeah, I think the danger of going into jokes about Ant-Man is that you're going to bring Derek Zoolander in straight away. Go, he's a teeny tiny superhero. No, but I just see that line from Austin Powers to Captain America. So in my head, Austin Powers is in the multiverse.
They need their own film. Captain America and Austin Powers both have come back from the past to the future.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I think this
Captain Powers and Austin America.
That's what we should pitch to the Russo brothers. That Austin Powers is the new Captain America. Yeah, baby.
Dear Mr. Disney.
Yeah, you can imagine Captain Powers meeting Wanda for the first time. Very good, baby.
Dear Mr. Feige, I would like to pitch you a really great idea. In fact, one could say it's a groovy idea.
It's great. I think
Tiger.
You look at we're doing our usual Marvel bashing. Okay, so I'll keep it brief. Look at the trajectory that Marvel films are on. Okay, I'm going to say classic Marvel, and then I'm going to use another phrase in a tick. So look at the trajectory that classic Marvel's on. Yeah. Now add in Wolverine and Deadpool, which is new Marvel. You still need something else. There's a space for Austin Powers. There really is.
Well, moving away from the Marvel verse, is that Austin Powers 4 has been talked about for, I think, about 10 years now. Coming up to 10 years have it been talked about? But Mike Myers being the one who keeps talking about it.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Apparently they've got a story and they've got part of the script there. But if they're going to bring back Shrek...
Yeah, I think you're going to have to say the name of the show because I can't remember what it's called properly, but he had one on Netflix last year.
Oh, gosh, even the Pentaveret.
The Pentaveret. I love Mike Myers. I think Wayne's World and Austin Powers are brilliant. I think So I Married an Axe Murderer is better than Wayne's World. That's my personal opinion. That's just his pure bleed comedy. And So I Married an Axe Murderer. I just love it. Love that film. Yeah, Shrek's a one-trick pony. Shrek came up with a formula very, very quickly. In the first film, it was talk like that. That's all you got to do. I think his creative heyday is behind him. And I think that's why he doesn't work a lot. I don't think he enjoys it anymore.
Well, the Pentaveret sadly was something I abandoned partway through. I just couldn't get on with it. I really couldn't get on with it. It's really sad because I'm a big Mike Myers fan as well.
Yeah.
And it was a real shame. But I think keeping Austin Powers as a trilogy is how it should be left. Do not soil the memory of that. And I think we're going to discuss it on one of our upcoming podcasts. Is we're going to look at historic IP. Do we need to bring back franchises, films? Looking at you, Beetlejuice. Do we need to bring these things back?
Yeah,
and I think Austin Powers is one that needs to just be kept as a trilogy left. Do not do not open it up to Austin Powers Jr. Lil Austin.
Well, they did that. They did that in Goldmember, didn't they? Where they had them in school, and
Yeah.
that was brilliant. But that was enough. I think the episode's going to be is nostalgia enough to greenlight a film. And I almost always say no. And I think to do any more with the Austin Powers IP, when the world, think about how much the world has moved on. Think about how many jokes. There's not many jokes in Austin Powers where you go, oh, that's close to the bone, because it was well written at the time to not be too edgy, to be a little bit saucy, but not too edgy. But even people now think, what's the actress's name? Sydney Sweeney. I saw today online that people are calling her breasts anti-woke.
Sorry, what now?
Exactly. Seriously. So if you think I'll explain it in a tick. But if you think about Austin Powers and the jokes and the visuals in it, people, somebody somewhere is going to spit a demon seed at it. They're just going to go, "Oh, that's awful." So apparently, Sydney Sweeney and other actresses that are of larger chest, are being called anti-woke because their breasticles are seen as part of their attraction, and that's not how we look at people nowadays.
It's not their fault they've got big boobs.
But the thing is, whether they've got big boobs, little boobs, no boobs, 3 boobs, 1 boob, whatever,
Shouldn't factor.
it's irrelevant. It's exactly the same as color. It's the same as sexuality. It doesn't matter.
Well, they're going to be highly annoyed by Machine Gun Jabblies then.
Machine Gun Jabblies. So
how did I miss those?
One of the things I looked up, where did fembots start? I did a bit of research into fembots. Okay.
I've done this before, but please remind me.
Okay, so the fembot wasn't what they were originally called. Excuse me. They were originally called gynoids. Gynoids. And that came from was it Maria from Metropolis? The Fritz Lang film. Yeah. Which is one of the first true science fiction films, which is like 1920 something crazy. It's even older than I am. That's permanently black and white. I've got a bit of color in me. And that was this female shape robot, was originally called a gynoid. The actual phrase, the actual word fembot, comes from the TV show The Bionic Woman.
That's it. Yes.
That's where it was popularized. It was then taken off by Frank Zappa. He had a track, Fembot, on a wet t-shirt night, or whatever it's called. But Fembot came from the Bionic Woman, who herself was part cyborg. My first crush, Lindsay Wagner. Yeah. So yeah, but the fembots, they're just so perfect that you've got this alluring female shape coming towards you with Machine Gun Jabblies.
And it's the fact that they had Nancy Sinatra.
Yeah,
these boots are made for walking. What a soundtrack! And I mean, speaking of the soundtrack, the first 2 soundtracks are fantastic. The third is obviously not a monetary cash in, but a studio. By that I mean film studio cash in on sort of what a soundtrack should be. So you've got big artists doing sort of tracks that are synced in some way relevant to Austin Powers. But the first 2, I mean, even Austin's band, Ming T.
Oh, Ming T, fantastic.
With BBC, Mrs. Won't you make me tea, make love to me? And
that was
with the BBC channel.
That's a proper band. It was Susanna Hoffs, wasn't it?
It was Susanna Hoffs, which is just brilliant.
Yeah. Who is,
I just think, great.
65 now.
I know.
She is 65.
I don't know who her magician is, but she does not look 65.
Well, I think she eats the souls of babies because she looks about 40. It's quite it's quite miraculous. She does look about 40. She makes all these actresses that have gone, chip cut, inject,
Yeah,
pull.
yeah.
Yeah, she makes them all look exactly what they are. Yeah, I think
But
go on.
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think the third film created a soundtrack as a commodity to go in line with merch,
Yeah.
because it saw the potential there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and in that, I think it killed it.
yeah, because you've got Britney Spears, which is one of the
Yeah.
opening cameos, and that always left me cold. It was just like, what is the point in that? Apart from somebody knew somebody, or somebody thought, well, it would give a point on some kind of popularity scale. I did not like it at all.
No, it's a shame because the first soundtrack's great for what it is. There's a few songs on there that I discovered. I'm like, these are brilliant.
Yeah,
Spy Shag Me, I thought they did do as was typical at that time. They did do the movie music crossover to shift units.
yeah,
So you've got Lenny Kravitz covering American Woman, which I think is a fantastic cover version. But I do think even Madonna's single "Beautiful Stranger" with that she did with William Orbit, and the
yeah.
video for that had Austin Powers dancing with her in the Jaguar. I thought that was
Jaguar,
really
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I
I would
thought that
agree with
had
you.
some
Yeah,
relevance to it.
yeah, I would agree with you on that
But
one.
for Goldmember, it was just a blatant big money tie-in. It was nothing more.
And
No
and got
artistic merit.
Yeah, well, it had become a cash machine at that point, and I think that's
Yeah,
evident. And it's funny that when you got to the box office receipts, the budget for Goldmember was $63 million. So that's more than,
mostly on cameos.
but that's more than double the Spy Who Shagged Me. It made $296 million at the box office, which is a lot less than the Spy Who Shagged Me. And I think that was reflected by the way it was reviewed as well. I think whilst it was, if you cut away the fat, the irrelevant bits of it, it was a very, very, very funny film. But I think people had sussed at that point that it was taking a piss a little bit by putting all those people in it.
Well, that's the thing. I think when I sat down to watch it, and you had that opening bit with all the cameos, I thought that in itself is a great piece. Nowadays, that would probably be a social media bit to advertise the film.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, now when you sat down in the cinema, you paid your money to go and see it. I got past that bit, and I was like, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
You sort of shot your load within the first 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, because
which was
the first two
disappointing.
films started so beautifully with choreography. With
Yeah.
the soul bossa nova and the synchronized swimmers and everything. That was really, really
Brilliant.
beautifully done. But the choreography had almost been pushed to the side by taking up the time you doing so many cameos. So where do you think then? Where did Mini Me come from? What's the DNA behind Mini Me? Because we've got Mr. Bigglesworth, which is the cat that Blofeld had in not Dr. Goldfinger, I think it was.
It's just the name Mr. Bigglesworth always creases me.
But
Mr. Bigglesworth.
But what's the DNA of Mini Me then? And don't say Dr. Evil, okay, because that's just being flippant. But
do you know what? I don't know, but going back, taking Mini Me as a springboard into what you were saying earlier of the woke agenda is these are films that Mini Me is one of the reasons a film like that would not be made today.
Even though Mini Me is a genius character and gave Vern Troyer an opportunity to be a fully fledged actor who does some some of his comedy timing in that is amongst some of the best in the films.
Oh, he is absolutely superb. But if you think about Mini Me, fat bastard.
Kind of looks like a baby.
Yeah. He weighs a metric ton. Well,
I
you've
eat
not-
because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because
Because
I eat.
And, you know,
Yeah, I
you,
detract from your original.
you can keep it going on. You can go about the Japanese twins, you know, Fukumi and Fukyu. Kiss your mother with that mouth.
Twins, Basil.
And you've got that comment. You can go through the script of all three films and go, you know, woke alert, woke alert, woke
Yeah,
alert.
totally. But they are of a time, and we will reference them of that time. A time that you and I were
No, I
enjoying these films for what
yeah,
they were.
you know how much I hate when films and TV shows have on it. The following film represents values and thoughts that are not consistent with today's values. I think, fuck off. Okay. It's a piece of art. Do we suddenly go and get To Kill a Mockingbird and take out the nasty bits? Do we suddenly go and get The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and rip all the God references out? Of course we fucking don't. It just, you know, somebody would even get offended by number 2.
Yeah. Anyway, here's a phrase I never thought I'd say. Let's go back to Mini Me.
That's what she said. And here's a phrase I never thought I'd say. The time has come to finish off on Mini Me. I'm drowning. So what is the DNA of Mini Me? Because that character, there's nothing in any of your reference points. You Casino Royale with David Niven, your Harry Palmer, your Flint, the you know, Man from U.N.C.L.E. to some degree. You've got no reference points in there for a clone of the big bad. 1/8 his size.
But I think that's a writer's room joke. That is a pure writer's room joke. We need somebody in the thought process. Mike Myers probably said, well, it'd be really funny if they cloned Dr. Evil as a mini Dr. Evil. And then they probably went round and round on that one, and then it came to we need a tiny a tiny person to play mini me.
How tall was
I purely think
wasn't he about 2 foot tall or something?
I don't know, but God bless him, tragic life, really.
Oh, well, it was too short, wasn't it? He was 2'8".
You had to, didn't you?
Oh, so sorry. No, I'm not. Vern would have laughed at that joke.
But yeah, I think that was a writer's room joke that was taken to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And God bless them for it, because I think that was just absolute perfection.
Oh, it's excellent. There's one character we haven't mentioned yet. There's a couple of characters. Basil Exposition. It doesn't matter what Basil does or say. He's M. He's the head of the intelligence organization, the crime fighting organization, the precinct captain. He's all of those things. But the fact that his name is Exposition, you just and all he does is just tell you everything you already know. That is, which is just utter genius.
But it's the casting of Michael York, I just think, is inspired. So you've got actually it's two of the sort of semi-major roles. By that I mean roles that are those of authority in some way.
Roles that roll, do you mean?
Yeah. So you've got Robert Wagner and Michael York as two, you know, serious roles that are there as a linchpin to against the comedy.
They're the straight men, the foils, aren't they?
That's it. Yeah.
You're bouncing on and off them all the time. But I think Michael York. There are, as with all of these franchises, a list of characters and actors that is just amazing. You know, Frau Fabius and Robin Swallows. maiden name Spitz.
Switches in
Oh,
baby Spitz or
Spitz or
Swallows.
Swallows. But I think a special mention as we come towards the end of the episode has got to go.
Sorry, that's one of my favourite lines of it.
I
don't know
know.
why. Switches in baby Spitz or
Spitz or
Swallows. I don't know.
Swallows.
Every time. I love that.
Which is repeated with Fook me and Fook you. But a special mention has got to go to Seth Green as Scott Evil. My
Scotty
God.
there.
He is brilliant. He's pitch perfect. His timing is incredible. Okay. I just think that as good as Dr. Evil is, and I mean, he's really, really good, any other actor would have detracted from Dr. Evil, whereas Seth Green amplified all of those scenes together. I just think Seth Green is very underrated, in my opinion, or not.
Yeah.
Maybe not underrated, not discussed enough.
Yeah, I would agree. I love his work on Robot Chicken and the voices he does for Family Guy. And as an actor, I think he is way underrated. I think he's a great comedic, but sort of deadpan comedic actor.
Yeah.
Which is why he works so good against the stupidity of Dr. Evil.
Oh, the Alan Parsons Project. Laser.
I'm sure preparation feels really good on the whole.
Ass. He is just brilliant. The thing that I like the most of all, and I don't know whether Mike Myers did it on purpose, but Goldmember finishes with Scott Evil doing a Michael Jackson dance. You know, he's lost all his hair. He's got this maniacal cackle about him, and he just gets up and does this really, I don't know, like he's being electrocuted Michael Jackson dance, which is very, very disjointed. And I just think that's brilliant. I really do.
Well, I think that comes into the fact of how much these films were improv, because I think Mike Myers credits the first one to something like 60 to 80% of it is improv.
He is that kind of comedian, though. Yeah.
But he is, and that's what's great. And he lets other actors around him do that as well, so that he bounces off it. And you can tell it at points. The one that floors me every time because of how good it is, not because of how funny, because it is funny, but how good and well scripted it is cameo alert again, Carrie Fisher as the therapist with Dr. Evil in the first one.
Yeah.
And he goes on about his here in the boulangerie. There's nothing quite like a Sean Scrotum. It's breathtaking, I assure you. That monologue is freaking brilliant.
It is.
But I think he was it his father or grandfather he dedicated that, who got either I think Alzheimer's or dementia towards the end, and would just come out with these these sayings, and that's what that was based on. So again, we go back to the DNA and much around Mike Myers' family, about his father and about the comedic roots back in this country.
So I wonder if we'll see, as we continue with this series, as we do more comedies, there's a large percentage of the DNA of that film comes from the artist's DNA, not necessarily the script DNA. So last week when we looked at Longlegs, Jesus Christ, I nearly forgot Longlegs' name then. It was definitely cinematic landmarks that helped create Longlegs. Whereas with comedy, we can actually say, well, actually, no, some of these are coming from real people, because there isn't a real Longlegs. Well, at least I hope not.
Bloody hell, I hope not.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
Yeah. So
no, I think comedy though is it's probably own opinion, but I think comedy is more personable. You draw from life experiences, whereas from something like Slinky Legs is that you draw from.
You done it again.
You draw from other movies, and Molly.
Oh no! See, that's got the wokes. Let's just. We've been very, very complimentary about these films. Okay, I think we just need to point out that sometimes all doesn't go quite as planned with these films. And I've got 2 words for you. Elizabeth Hurley. She is bloody awful in them.
She, yeah, she's more wooden than a forest.
Considering that a lot of this film is starring comedic actors and actresses, that a lot of it is improvisational. There's no way she wasn't reading her lines, because she is awful.
It's awful. I think she came alive more in Spy Who Shagged Me, but she's only in it for a few minutes.
Yeah, see, I think that I don't even know how to vocalize when I'm thinking about her performance. It's just shockingly bad. I'm sure her cue card said smile, because you can see her just doing that, going like that. She's dreadful.
But in that though lies some beauty that makes it in a way, because how do I phrase this correctly?
With words and grammar.
Shut up. Harking back to films of that era is that the lady was there for a certain reason. It was to look good and look pretty. And I think that's what Liz Hurley was there to do, because my God, the acting was not great.
I think you've got that in a nutshell. But this is me in a nutshell. Oh, I'm stuck in a nutshell.
What kind of a nut is this?
Right. So as we come towards the end of the episode, I'd like to just do a roll call. And I'll try and do this as smoothly as I can. To the characters that we haven't discussed so far, who have heritage and DNA through 100 films through the 50s and 60s and 70s, whether they be a Bond film or Casino Royale or a James Bond film, because James Bond female characters are always named something which is a little bit suggestive. Yeah. So we're going to start off with a Lotta Vagina, which is yes, that's a character called a Lotta Vagina. Wow. Then we have the Irish hitman called Patty O'Brien.
Sorry. Who I thought for quite a while was played by Michael Keaton.
Jesus Christ, you need your eyes tested. If we move on to the second film, The Spy Who Shagged Me, suggestive title, Heather Graham, the beautiful Heather Graham, Felicity Shagwell. Okay, that's very James Bondian. It's very James Bondian. Robin Swallows, who we've already mentioned, maiden name Spitz. Frau Farbissner, which I don't know. I don't get what Farbissner is, so I don't know, maybe I'll leave that one alone. Then we have the Foxy Cleopatra from Goldmember. Was not the right name for that character. It was a blaxploitation name, not a fanar innuendo name, which is a bit disappointing. Fook me and Fook you, which I just thought great. And where is he? Fred Savage as number 3. You go, why is number 3 mildly offensive? Because he has a mole on his face, and the mole gets quite a lot of attention in the film. Quite a bit.
Don't mention more.
So I would like to, if Mike Myers ever comes across this podcast, ooh, there's a thought. If he ever finds this podcast, I would like to say to Mike Myers, thank you. Your character of Austin Powers has given me years and years and years of pleasure. It gave me back in 1999 an evening with my Oppo here.
Oh my god, yes.
In the
Forgotten that.
Pillsworth, which is in Bury, Greater Manchester, Warner Brothers multi-screen cinema. Ooh, it was a big thing back then, where we went to see The Spy Who Shagged Me
Listen,
and South Park Longer Uncut, or whatever the fuck it was
bigger,
called.
better, longer, uncut.
Yeah, as a double bill, and both nearly died of laughter.
Oh, I hurt so badly afterwards.
You said you'd never mention that again.
It's just reminded me of the best, one of the funniest parts from this Shag Me, which is it looks like a giant wang.
Yeah. What's that, Willie? and
It's Willie Nelson.
and that joke is played out several times across the trilogy. You know, yeah. But I just think,
Yeah.
Mike Myers will never see or hear this, but I think for those 3 films, he gets legendary status in my book. And
well, I those films mean well, not so much Goldmember, but Austin Powers. It just means so much to me. Of a certain time in life that was it was great. But I played that VHS to death. I literally played it to death. It got so warped it couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
Then I had to go and buy it on DVD, and I had them on DVD. I played them endlessly. I played the soundtracks endlessly. When I was in a band, we covered BBC because it was just so much fun to play live. And Mike Myers, I salute you.
And isn't it a pity that BBC means something else now?
Yep.
No, thank you, Mr. Myers. You go down as our first legend of DNA, because, you're just brilliant. So from me, it's a yeah, baby. From him, it's a
I just wanted sharks with frickin' laser beams on them.
See you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.